Welcome to Standout Coffee. Quick introduction of you, Maximilian. Who are you? Why are you here?
Yeah, yeah. I'm here because I apparently love coffee now.
Yes.
Thank you for having me. Well, a short introduction is that I come from the southern part of Sweden. Wasn't meant to get involved with cooking.
Yeah.
But I applied to chef school because I wanted to go skiing in the Alps. Almost got kicked out of chef school. But then I pulled myself together. I graduated. I went to the Alps for 3 years. And then I started working my way up in fine dining. Made it to the top. And then I started focusing on... I had an incident on the Mediterranean where I almost drowned with a big luxury yacht, which made me contemplate my life when we made it back to shore. So I started focusing on like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life?
Yeah.
And one of those things was, how can I live my life in the best way possible?
Yeah.
So I started focusing on what I put in my body. Got more and more interested in sustainability and agriculture.
Mm.
And I landed a job at a newly started restaurant in here in Stockholm that was only focusing on local produce. So this was early 2004, I think.
Yeah.
And nobody worked in that way back then. It's few of them. So we made some really big headlines, and then sort of local produce kicked off everywhere. And from that, I've kept focusing on, firstly, agriculture. What can we get out of our soils? What's important for the soil? Started to educate the restaurant industry about this.
Yeah.
Like, what's sustainable cooking?
Mm.
What is best to focus on, and what's just words? So I did that I still do. I think 18 years.
Yeah.
And I just kept educating myself. And during that point, I think 13 years ago, I just wanted to test to eat plant-based to see like what's the whole vegan thing. Did that for 4 weeks. After those 4 weeks, I just felt like a huge impact on my health and energy level. So I decided to do it for a year, and 6 months into that year, I just like, no, I'm never going to eat animal-based food again. So I've been eating vegan food for 13 years. And still like keeping educating, getting into the details. And I found myself like 10 years ago, I started my first own real company, like a restaurant supposed to be a chain. I got into the whole management thing, and I landed some really big consultancy jobs, some big Swedish corporations, and then found that I really love moving the masses.
Yeah.
So I've been transitioning into working more into a management job than just like cooking one plate of food at a time. So I do more office work now.
You're getting older.
Yeah. I love the hours.
Yeah.
Can't complain about having the weekends off.
No.
But I have kids as well.
Yes.
So, so that's not say a short answer, but it's a shorter.
And we have the opportunity to hang out with you for, is it around 2 years now, I think? Or 1.5 maybe?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. We got involved and met each other because of water.
Yeah.
But usually when we are abroad or just in discussions, it's so interesting to like just open up your head in terms of like what stuff is actually made of, how it's built up. And usually we talk about plant-based milk, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Because you've been involved in a lot of parts of that chain, and us as well, but from the coffee point of view, like more getting a product in, using it on a daily basis and stuff like that. So what do you see? I think the ratio now in coffee bars is like 50-50, I think, for milk versus non-milk. It's maybe wrong, but that's what I've heard. How do you see the future? Do you drink regular milk?
No. I actually got regular milk in my coffee a week ago, and I can spot it straight away.
Yeah, because the latte art is so good.
No. It's the mouth feel.
Yeah,
there's some very specific fatty tanginess in the back here.
Yeah.
And it's kind of quirky for me to get it. So I
But do you like the taste?
No. I used to.
You used to, yeah.
I get the question so often, don't you miss blank? Don't you miss like this? Bang, bang.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, not real, because so one of the reasons why I turned plant-based was to see what can the gastronomy do with vegan food?
Yeah.
Like, what can we develop? So I've just been going very, very deep in extracting flavors from all the plants.
Yeah.
So I eat delicious food, and I can see like all these plant-based milks are helping people enjoy life.
Yeah.
Because we're all such a bunch of egoists. We just want to have an amazing life, and we can read the news and be concerned, and we can donate, and we can do charity work, and small percentage of us actually do something. We go to countries with famine or war, and we help out. We have all these amazing people in society that really, they cannot just stay at home and think about it. They have to act.
Yeah.
But the majority is like, yeah, I'm concerned, but I also like beer, beef, sausage, whatever. So I think the most important thing we can do is to help those people make sustainable choices with the added deliciousness kept. Like, otherwise, I'm not going to be able to convince people within the planetary boundary deadline to eat the way I do.
No.
I eat a lot of food. I work out 7 days a week. I just keep up nutrition. But it's like the amount of beans, peas, and lentils I consume is ridiculous. Nobody's going to do that.
No.
So I've dropped that idea a long time ago. So all these solutions are helping people. In my mind, it's helping people to reduce their impact, take responsibility for what's happened, give something back to our next generation. So the more people make those small choices in their everyday, the better it is.
Yeah, because you necessarily don't need to go all out, like all in.
No.
You can do like, because I have small kids now, and we changed the meat in the tacos yesterday to something plant-based. No one, because you have like shitloads of super strange spices in it, and everyone was super happy. So
did you tell them?
No. My mother asked, was this meat or like chicken, or I don't know what she said, and I was like, something in between, and we just talked about the latest Holland goal with my son, and he was just smashing tacos. So of course you can make like small decisions, but I, as a person who I enjoy meat, I eat meat. I have small kids who wants like just bad food, just meatballs and whatever, falukorv. I think it's hard to like to change it fully, but you need to gradually maybe get into it. But do you see, now it's getting like a broad picture, but you see, would the world function without meat, with the amount of people that we have? Do you think so?
Yeah.
No, that's cool. You don't need to go into it super deep. But
I can go into it because I wrote a book about it. It's called, in translation, in the environmental diet, miljödieten.
Is it out somewhere?
Yeah,
wow.
It's been out for quite some time. I wrote it with my friend Daniel Öhman, who's a investigative reporter at Sveriges Radio, Ekot.
Cool.
So he's like one of the best investigative journalists we have, and he's got a focus on sustainability as well. So we wrote that book after some discussions we had, that I was saying, can we, if we look at what the planet can provide us, like the one planet, we're speaking about this this day of the year where we sort of run over our resources every year, and it's getting shorter and shorter. Yeah,
like March or something now.
Yeah. These 6 planets.
Yeah.
What if we just took the one planet we have and we ate what the planet can give us? Can we survive? And the answer was yes. He dug into the literature. I provided the recipes, and we had a zone between us where we sort of like, how can we communicate this? And we can most definitely live off of that.
Yeah.
I know there's some like, we need animal manure to fertilize the soils. Okay, fine. Keep the cows as fertilizer machines.
Yeah.
Which means just let them live.
Yeah.
Don't slaughter them.
No.
And when they die, we'll serve that meat.
Yeah.
The amount of beef that would disappear from the planet would be astronomical, and would be a huge service. Then we have we can get into micronutrients and all that, but it's all doable. The human body is super adaptable. Yeah. So I have no doubt. I live that life.
Yeah.
So I know, and a lot of people do.
Super interesting. Wow. Yeah. So why not? Maybe I should give it a try. How hard is it? Like, just give it a try. 30 days. What's the biggest impact on your body?
So
you think?
I have an opportunity here now.
Yes.
I need to retract some of my communications that I did like my first 5-6 years as vegan, because I was also very outspoken in media. I have done a lot of magazines and recipes. I was on TV, and I was repeating like, go vegan for 30 days.
Okay.
You will love it, because I did. But I didn't mention that if you go vegan for 30 days and you've just been eating like the normal standard diet, it's going to have some effects.
Yeah.
And the effect will be that you go from a low fiber diet to a really high fiber diet. And your microbiome is not ready for that.
No.
It needs some adaptation. That takes a while.
Yeah.
So if you do that, you will experience, and everyone around you will experience, that you are eating more fiber, if you get my drift. So I would say instead, start replacing certain meals per week, per day. Do all lunches vegan. Or do plant-based 5 meals a week. Yeah. And then 6 meals a week. Incorporate fermented vegetables, so sauerkraut, carrots. We have an amazing brand here in Sweden called Tistelvind. They do like live fermented vegetables.
Light fermented.
Live.
Live.
It needs to be alive. Don't do fermented foods that are on the warm shelf.
No,
because they need to be pasteurized, and then you kill off all the good bacteria. So if you start to incorporate like 1 tablespoon a day, each day, morning is preferable. Fermented food should be eaten before you eat anything else, so it makes it through the stomach, the acidity. And then you do 2 tablespoons. Yeah. And then you keep like adding fibers, because that's going to be the big thing. Then you could reach a point where your body is adapted to the high fiber content. And you've lowered your CO2 impact massively. Yeah. Because it's not about going from this high to all the way down.
No.
it's going from here to here.
Mm.
And this is
massive
way easier than going all the way. But when you're here, going down here, it's easier. But you need to start with something.
Yeah.
And everyone gets so overwhelmed when they hear this communication from like, we all need to stop eating meats and all that.
Like
and
300 grams a week is more than you should have, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I agree on that one because that's connected to beef mostly.
But they don't talk that much about what to
do
instead.
I know.
Because you're like, okay, I'm just reducing this amount of meat, and then you eat like candy instead.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I don't know.
Well,
but it's all better than nothing.
Do 3 deciliters of cooked legumes instead. That's about of 300 grams. And 300 grams of cooked legumes is about 25 grams of protein.
Yeah. I think the main problem is that people have no idea about this. They don't really care. Yeah. And they only miss out on the flavor of like raw meat, like, or salami or whatever.
Yeah, I know.
And they like the salt of it and just like what people like, and a glass of wine to that. And they're like, okay, so I'm just taking this away now.
Yeah.
And it creates like an empty...
It's a craving.
Yeah.
I read Justin Sonnenberg's book about the gut microbiome. And then I heard like a really good podcast with him. He's like, the microbiome is... it outnumbers our own genome by far. So we have more alien cells in our body than we have human cells. So you can argue, are we controlling the microbiome or are they controlling us? Because the cravings we have come from certain mechanics or functions of our microbiomes. So we seek out sugars, starch, or proteins and fats. And when you stop eating meat, you will get rid of those bacteria that break down those meats, and you won't have that need as much. Because I've had meat in my food accidentally, and also like I'm in dire need of some nutrition here because I'm somewhere remote.
Yeah.
I've run for 10 hours or something. I need food, and there's only like a pizza. The salience of like this irony, bloody flavor is like, it's intense.
Yeah.
Before I loved it. Now it's just like, it's awkward.
Yeah.
It's quirky. So I get fully satisfied eating and drinking everything that comes from plants.
Yeah. That's cool.
And now also coffee.
Yeah, because you're like, I don't know if we will ever get into the water part here, but when you came to us, we started the Bluewater experiment kind of like journey that we come a long way with. You were like, the first thing you said, like, I don't really drink coffee.
Yeah, I know.
Kind of. And we gave you a solid espresso from our world. And from then, you're like posting AeroPress videos on your Instagram now. I'm getting proud of you, man.
That espresso was like the best. I can still taste it.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I think it was an Ethiopian espresso. But it's cool to see, and I think the reason you didn't have coffee, was it due to taste, or was it something in your like?
So two things. First of all, I've been served really bad coffee. Yeah. Swedish coffee in general, like the bulk, is really awful. In my mind, it's awful. I don't like it at all. It's hard. It's like knives in your throat. It's bitter and no, never liked it.
Yeah, I rest my case.
Yeah. So the next one is, if something so health-wise, you shouldn't eat too much that is roasted, like barbecue and things over open flames. There's a clear cancerogenic connection to eating burnt stuff and
Wow.
getting
I never thought of that. That's
ill.
yeah.
So I eat fried food, I do, but I don't eat it in the majority. I prefer raw, cooked, or boiled, seared, but not this blackened, hard stuff. And for me, coffee was all black. It's like this can't be healthy. It's all roasted.
Yeah.
But reading into what it actually contains, the positive benefits outweigh the negative. So it's rich in polyphenols, which is sort of the fuel for our gut microbiome to work. It's gasoline for them. So it improves my actual metabolism drinking coffee. And then you have the caffeine. If you ingest it in the early day, you actually get more focus and you get a higher sense of energy throughout your work day where you need to be focused.
That must be the main reason why people still drink super burnt coffee, right? Because it's obviously, when you give them an Ethiopian espresso, like to generalize, they're like, oh my God, this is so much better. But they still drink this, as you said, knives in the heart, dark, burnt. But in the end, it must be like an addiction. Like they need the caffeine.
Yeah. And it's I'm marveled by why people drink that stuff, because there's nothing in it. Like certain things I can understand, like flavor wise, why people find some certain things, certain like heavy spirits.
Yeah.
I can see why, but I cannot adapt to it. But just this burnt, bitter, sour liquid.
It's strange, right?
Yeah.
Like especially when you like put them up on like a tasting, of course then like price and everything comes in. But I think it's also connected to like the pause, like your 15 minutes of coffee break.
Yeah.
It's just like accepted.
And it's almost like masochistic. Like I'm gonna suffer a little bit because that's gonna wake me up.
Yeah.
And people complain about me doing cold showers in the morning. I suffer, but it's like afterwards I have like 2-3 hours of just like bing.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really hardwired routine that gets adopted early.
Yeah.
Because the earlier you start, the more impact it will have on your sort of, I need this.
Yeah.
And people aren't sleeping enough. If people would dial in their sleep, so get a proper night's rest, 8 hours, not 6 hours, not 5, not 4, and the proper sleep structure, which means no scrolling or TV in bed, and then like the more hours before midnight you get, the more deep sleep you will get. If they would have that in place, the need for coffee will reduce because coffee masks sleepiness.
Yeah.
So if you're getting sleepy in the afternoon, if you drink coffee, you sort of you hide the sleepiness for a while, but
then you crash.
Then the caffeine will keep you away from your deep sleep because it's going to keep your levels up, so you won't get that recovery that you need. Yeah. And recovery isn't just for people who work out; it's for people who are just living during the day.
Yeah.
Like, so I think it's just like this circular addiction, like not sleeping well enough, and need to focus during the day.
Yeah.
And we can't tell people to do like heavy drugs.
No.
And hey, we have coffee.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yes.
It's perfect. Like this friendly little addiction.
Yeah. It's just interesting to see. What do you think of coffee from Nicaragua?
This is the way I also see like water interacting with coffee. If you drink the coffee, and then you have a really nice water afterwards, it brings out more stuff.
Yes, because this was something you spoke about early in our journey together with Bluewater. Is that of course we can manipulate or like clean the water and build it up perfectly for coffee. But you also very early spoke about, and this is that comes from my point of competing with coffee, like palate cleansing, and how do you react to the coffee after, or the water after a coffee, and can you actually change the structure of the water to make it taste like better after a cup of coffee?
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Like, is the water a friend or a foe?
Yeah.
If you have shitty water,
yeah,
and you drink that between sips,
yeah,
you reduce the experience.
Yeah.
Having the cleanest, the purest, the best mineralized water that like we do at Bluewater,
yeah,
you'll just leave more room for an experience. I was in New York before summer, and I went to one of those places that you recommended, sheep something, black sheep.
Yes.
Black sheep?
Yes.
Yeah. And they served sparkling water to the espresso.
Yeah.
And I asked, like, why? Because no one else did it.
No.
And they was like, yeah, we just want you to clean your palate before you drink the espresso.
Yeah.
So, cool. Great idea. I think I texted you straight
away. Yeah. And that comes purely from the competition world. Like, you don't know what the judges have experienced, ate, or had a cigarette before competing or judging. So you can at least make sure that they are as prepared as possible. So as a palate cleanser, I give you this. In some cases, it could be water. In some cases, it could be something else, because you think and you came up with the idea of the coffee will be experienced in a better way if you had a small shot of cascara or lemon juice, or it could be water or whatever. I know people that also experiment with like eating small things. But in the end, you want to be in control of what the judges actually experience.
Yeah.
And one good thing could just be like clean your mouth.
We had a really cool sit down with a sommelier, a friend of mine, Maximillian Melfors. It's a wine agency for Rosfort and Rosfort, like one of the best sommeliers we have in Sweden. I did a supper club with him, I don't know, 15 years ago, where we paired natural wine with plant-based food.
Yeah.
Actually, that's when I went vegan.
Okay,
because
cool.
we said like one of the things was how little meat can we serve without the guests complaining.
Yeah.
But like we like this whole flavoring, profiling with wine that we actually didn't know what it was until we drank it was sort of like a cool thing. So I wanted to get him in on this like water and wine pairing. And so we had he brought the wine. We did different mineralizations of the water, and we drank the water and then the wine. Didn't have any impact. Like, it's like, no, this is not something. Like we won't market things that aren't true. That's why we work with you guys. But what happened was when I drank the really dry wine, and I had the most mineral water
afterwards.
In between.
In between, yeah.
The saliva was more not delicious, but comfortable. If you drink like a really heavy oaked wine or like heavy tannins, you have this dry feeling in your mouth. I don't like that. So certain people do, but I don't like that. But drinking this water straight after, just like the mouth just felt like more comfortable.
Yeah.
Both like just speaking, the mechanics of the mouth just went up. So water can be so many things. It can enhance, it can reduce, it can clean, it can quench, but it can also just be like a friend when you're enjoying something when you drink it, but then you're left with this like dry mouth, and you just have this water. So that's also an experience. because if you drink too many of those glasses of wines, maybe you stop drinking just that wine and you change. But if you have the water, you keep replenishing your saliva in your mouth.
That's cool.
And I'm going on here about saliva, and then just the last thing, I got a sample of something yesterday at the office by two of our professors, and he wanted me to tell something about the flavor, and I did, but half a minute afterwards, I was sort of experiencing something with my saliva in my mouth, and like, well, why am I feeling this? And they had an answer to why. I can't disclose everything because it's a new product. And it just became a discussion about like how beverages interact with your saliva and what your experience is.
That's
because
cool.
if you're left with a dry mouth or it's bitter or something, it's not going to be pleasant in the long term.
No.
So how long do you want your guests to experience what you're offering?
Yeah.
Because this coffee here, I'm like still tasting it.
Yeah.
But when I had water, it amplified it. In another way.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are amazing beans that you're providing. The reputation that I hear about you when I'm out traveling and speaking to these people, you're like the best green bean growers on the market. Oh, sorry, buyers, growers.
Yeah.
And then you're roasting the best way as well. So like,
thanks.
When you're serving this coffee, like how can I extend it?
Yeah. That's super interesting. And something that like we're talking a lot about opening something one day. Right now we're into like, should we open something here at the roastery?
Cafe? Maybe
something. Because I think we are also when we like where we want to be with Standout, and like can we came up with, Alex said it well, but translating it to English is like turn first-time consumers into lifetime subscribers. I think that's really something that we're onto. Like if I take my wife's parents, they not obviously, but they drink good coffee from us. But the thing is, when they get home to their friends Eva and Christer, they get the normal Swedish coffee, and they're like, this is not good. Like, because they have really something to benchmark that or compare it to.
Poor Eva and Christer.
Yeah, poor Eva and Christer. And I think people will jump from our subscription to La Cabras or to April's or to whoever that also have amazing coffee, but we still turn them into, in one way, like lifetime subscribers of specialty coffee, of something that's not super dark roasted. And I think that's our like goal, our journey. And one way to achieve that is, of course, to open a coffee bar or just a service. So people, because I think when they see the coffee, they see the prices, and when they get it, it was like, what was this whole beans? I don't have a grinder. Like a lot of people out there, I think, would love to try the coffee, like to do 10 euros or 5 euros for an espresso, whatever, or 50 euros for espresso. But still, it's just maybe to really get it perfectly brewed like you did the first time. Like if I only gave you like, here's your Ethiopian espresso and you went home, you wouldn't have the same first-hand experience as you had here with like perfect water, perfect machinery, pretty solid baristas and stuff like that. So to like just push people into it. And it's an amazing hobby to have. It's not that expensive in the long run.
I meaning to ask you, because I have I also educate people like normal private consumers or cooks to plant-based. So I have classes, and I've sort of always said food is based on three things. It's the cook, it's the produce, and the recipe.
Yeah.
Change one of those things and you will have a completely different outcome. What would be the equivalent of that expression in the cup of coffee?
So you have the barista, like the coffee and the equipment, right?
No, you can add more if you want.
Yeah,
but
I think those three things is the things that you kind of need to check to make something good.
Yeah.
And of course you don't need but a lot of people want to get into espresso, but they have no idea really the price point to bring out the solid espresso. And then they get for a long time, they get a quite bad experience of espresso because the pressure is too low on the machine or something like that. And it can also be the knowledge. And that's who's a barista. It's a big thing. And I spoke about it with someone a few days ago. I was tired of work, I don't know, many years ago. And I was maybe I should become at Stockholm's Universitet, a professor in coffee, to do a proper 2-year class or something like that. So people can actually come out and be because today they're I had this 3-hour education at a big milk company. And I'm I'm a barista now. I'm a professional barista because I have a certificate. I think, because the best thing to be a good barista is to do your 10,000 hours. That's by far the best thing you can do. But if
shout out to all influencers trying to be chefs.
Yes, probably so. I think the traffic on most coffee bars in Sweden is a little bit too low. But if you compare it to the big boys in other countries, they have an amount of coffees that needs to be done every day. So you can give someone the role of only tamping. You are for 2 weeks you will only tamp, and you will become incredibly good at tamping straight and tamping good and structuring the espresso before brewing it. And then you will be a few weeks at the dishes, and then a few weeks at the milk steam and latte art station. But in Sweden, a lot of cafes needs to be able to be run out of 1 or 2 persons. And I think that's a problem, because you set the coffee aside because you need to do everything else. So to have a 1 year, I don't know, maybe it's a few weeks, I don't know, but a solid education for coffee, because the biggest problem we see at a lot of client to ours is that they bring in people and then they quit because it's not their end game work. As a chef, you can actually keep on working, but in coffee, a lot of people they become really good because they have the interest, and then they quit. Okay, I kind of got off, but equipment, barista, and then a lot of people is my coffee doesn't taste good. And I now have a meat reference, but it's why? So my meat is tasting very bad. It's something wrong with my pan. And I was but what meat do you put in the pan? And they're I don't know. And that's the thing with coffee. They're my coffee at home is so bad. And I was what machine should I get? And I was just bring up an AirPress for 30 euros. And then instead, so what beans do you put in? I don't know. Coffee from the grocery store. And I was so where to start? So just the biggest thing is to actually you only have 1 ingredient or 2 with water, but water could be complicated. So it's easier to just get some good beans in. Fresh roasted, if you can, grind them before brewing. And then you can go into the rabbit holes of scales and recipes and stuff. But that's also another thing that people are I don't have time for that. But you're going to steam the milk. So why not steam it good? You're going to pour up your cup. So why not pour latte art? It takes the same amount of time. You're going to brew the coffee. So why not just use a scale instead of a few scoops? So can you because it's so easy to get good at coffee. If you only have a spark of interest and not just put it aside as coffee, then you will raise your experience with 1,000,000%.
I should have. I was at Lavazza headquarters last week in outside of Philadelphia doing an educational summit for the SEA. Not me, but I was partaking. I'm not there yet. But the head trainer Frank LaRusso, he gave me a book that they're going to release. It's basically a lifter's guide to the galaxy about coffee, barista. So they've taken all information that they have and put it into a book. Like
That's amazing.
Like really nice detail, not all the way down the rabbit hole, but like I just flicked through it. I got the only hard copy they had. They're going to release it on PDF, but it's like it's so helpful.
Yeah,
because it's about like the level of knowledge you need to have to do a cup of coffee, a nice cup of coffee, a good cup of coffee, an amazing cup of coffee. Like your level here is amazing cup of coffee. And what people in general in Sweden drink is a cup of coffee.
Yeah, of course.
But you have nice, good, and great in between.
But you can make a cup of coffee so much better.
Yeah, but then you need to, add something.
Yeah, of course.
I got into light roasting as like the first step into the coffee drinking for me. There was one variety to buy in the shop. Now there's 3.
Yeah.
2 always, 3 occasionally. And for me, that's progress. And I also went to a gathering where there was a lot of people from the industry and saying like, we're selling more and more light roast in bulk to the hospitality industry.
That's amazing.
So the demand for light roasted is growing because I think people are being exposed to these really nice coffees and they are starting to learn like what matters when you want to do the good cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So how, like in your, like if you just off the top of your head, if you wanted to bring a coffee drinker from a cup of coffee to a good cup of coffee, what would you recommend? Like this is the home in the morning, waking up, they have their normal brewer and they have the opportunity to buy ground coffee in the store. What should it do to bring it just up a level, one level?
Bring out the scale.
The scale.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's absolutely
not the arbitrary measurement of.
No. Yeah. If you can. The problem with the scoop is, of course, if you do ground coffee, it's maybe more precise, but still, like a lot of those scoops are in different sizes.
So general.
Yeah. So it's good because it's a measurement tool, but most kitchens today have a small scale, like a digital scale, because it's interesting when you do like recipes for buns or whatever. You're like, oh my god, I had a half a deciliter of too much like flour or sugar or anything. Like you go like so precise on the recipes, but when you do coffee, it's just like boom, whatever. And then they complain, it's like, it's so weak or it's so strong. And like, how much coffee do you have to 1 liter of water? I have no idea. Like,
so what do you think? I have 48 grams of coffee ground for filter and I have 350 grams of water in the ratio.
So like in general, you should always aim for, but I realize it's hard to people to get this in. So it's easier to say 7 grams per deciliter of water. Or usually it's like 6 to 7. So what did you say? You had 48 grams
and 350 water.
So you have 350 water and you divide that with 48. Then you get 7.2 or 7.3.
So am I on point?
You're a little bit high.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can go down a little bit and then find
go up with water.
You can go up with water. Yes.
Ah.
And then it depends on like the grind size. Because if this is like espresso ground coffee, you will get like a super duper.
I grind myself.
Yeah,
of course.
So and then you bring in the aspect of time, because the biggest question we get that's hard to answer is like, I have this grinder with a serial number or a name, or like what grind size? What's my preferred grind size? And the absolute best way is to, most of our clients now have a Haru V60 because that's the brew method we use, the porcelain filter. And I can now...
pour over.
Yes, it's pour over. So to calibrate a grinder in Malaysia, I need them to bring out their V60, and I have my V60 with a double broom recipe that we now have on YouTube, and people are looking into it.
I've seen it.
Yeah, and then do exactly as I say. If that's correct or not, we can put that aside.
Yeah.
But if you do exactly as I say, you have the 15 grams of coffee, 250 grams of water, you pour 50, 50, and then 150, and try to hit the pour times that we are talking about. Then you will get an end time. An end time when all the water has been extracted through the coffee and the last drip is like in your cup. Then you stop the timer. And then I can calibrate your grinder. Because if you hit like 3.5 or 4 minutes, you're grinding too fine. You need to grind it a little bit coarser to hit the 2:45 or 3 minute mark. And if you're like 2:30 or 2:15 in total, you need to adjust the grind size a little bit finer. Because I have no idea for how long time did you have your grinder? What sort of grinder is it? But we can all relate on the recipe and the time. Because people change grinders. We have a grinder for 3,000 euros and you have a grinder for maybe 150 euros. But in the end, if we can hit the times, then we are like aligned in the kind of realm of same. Then you can go, as we said, down the rabbit hole with water, how we can extract more or less acidity from how we build up the blue water. But then, because then you also have the TDS readers. And we have our biggest client in Stockholm, Stora Bageriet and Gast. We finally got them to invest in TDS meters because they are text messaging me like, oh my God, the coffee is very strong at the Gast. And I'm like, but how strong is it? And what did you had? Is it in the morning? Did you just brush your teeth? Or is it like late in the evening? Now we can all align on a TDS number. So now Charlotte is text messaging me like 1:35 at Lilla Bageriet. And I'm like, perfect. Because then it's up to us to roast the coffee good. Because then we know. And on top of that, like make sure that you have the amount of coffee that we told you and the amount of water that the brewer is set to. And if those things is just left aside, like we do 155, 2,500 grams, whatever, if they just give me a TDS number, then I can easily by text just saying, do this or do that, but only adjust your grind size. Because a lot of people are freaking out when stuff happens and they change the grind size, they change the amount of coffee, and maybe add the amount of water. On top of that, they're like lowering the temperature. And then it's like, you have no idea what you did correctly. So I always say like, just keep your numbers, amount in. When we did an espresso before here, we had 19.2 grams in. We bring out 47 grams of coffee in total, and then we get a time. If that time is too low or too high, I just adjust the grind size. Same thing with pour over. With AirPress, it's a little bit different because then you have a steep time. You don't have anything pouring through because you can leave it for 10 days or 5 seconds. It will, of course, affect the cup. But just to be able to like a TDS reader that can just give you a number, how strong is actually the coffee. And I think it helped them and us massively because like if they are not like certified, trained judges and go in and be like, I think the texture of this coffee is a little bit off or it's too strong or too weak. It could be like a lot of things. What water did you just have? Or something like that.
That's my thought. Wouldn't it be much easier just to tell them to do this TDS instead? And how could that be done? How can you change the TDS of water in real time?
Just by adjusting the grind size of what it is now. But if they had like Bluewater stations set up everywhere, boom, then we can like digitally just change the TDS from an app. And of course that would be super, but it's also something that I think it's like too advanced for like a normal barista come in the morning and be like, oh, what's the TDS? I'm going to change the composition of water. And then they usually forget something. Like
the feedback we got from Day Trip in London.
Yeah.
So he has the system as well. He's like, I don't have to adjust so much anymore.
No.
It's just like, it's the same thing day in and day out.
And
that was his thing.
That's thanks to the consistency of the water, I think, as well. Because we don't know how inconsistent the water is that comes into machines, especially over time. And you guys know more than I about this, but like brewing amazing coffee for me is like, I want to put exactly everything aside and just focus on this. What meat did you actually put in the pan? Or what coffee did you actually have? Just focus on that. So of course, with like automatizations and technology, it would be amazing. It would be cool if you just have this ultimate brewer that you just plug into the water system. It makes perfect water. It grinds the beans perfectly. It doses the beans perfectly, and it extracts the beans perfectly, and just brings out a cup of coffee that's perfect. And then everyone can just set it aside, because everyone in the world have this perfect brew technique, and they can just focus on what coffee do you like, what variety, what process, and what producer. So for me, I think a lot of people are like freaking out and changing too much stuff. So just focus on consistency and what coffee it actually is. Because I think people are forgetting the coffee sometimes. So, and same with roasting. And like when we try coffee, we cup the coffee, we try them the same, like 12 grams, 200 grams of water. Everything is the same. We don't change how we cup coffee, how we brew the coffee. Try it depending on what coffee it is. Try everything the same. And of course, it could be better or worse if you like tweak small stuff. But in the long run, you just want to focus on the coffee. So in my world, I think, and we had a big issue with grinders many years ago because they were just too uneven. Like they gave too much fine powder, and also too much rocks or boulders, like the big chunks of coffee. So the more you put into your equipment, and especially the grinders, the more even the coffee will be ground. Then people had like shifted the coffee, like So they only took like a certain number and competed on it. And of course that would be super even, but it's not really manageable in a coffee bar environment.
No, it's not sustainable at all.
And you throw a lot of things away. Same thing with like color sorters now in roasteries. It's because the price of them are going down, and you can actually bring them into roasteries that can like sort out unevenness. But we heard of like big roasters now, like literally throwing away like 15% of their roasted coffee because they are like a little bit off. And I can understand, like, because if you want to make a perfect product, you want everything to be color sorted, size sorted, whatever sorted. And of course, it will be a more even, amazing coffee. But I think in some parts, you just have to say kind of stop. Like we pay so much for the green beans to come here. So we trust the color sorting on the farms. And I think a little bit of unevenness gives like some spark as well also.
I have a thought now that I'm like a few years into being a coffee drinker. There's one aspect that I see get a lot of focus, and some aspects gets none of it by different coffee shops, and it's the environment. I want to drink like a really nice coffee.
When you say environment, is like the temperature?
No. The feel and the atmosphere of the actual venue. Like I come from the restaurant industry where we sort of work with FAM, 5 aspects of a meal. And, the food is one part. The service, the atmosphere, the menu. Like, what do you want the guest to have as in their emotional registry when they leave
Yes.
Like what do you want to send them off with?
Yeah.
When I do my lectures, I always think about what do I want people to think about when they leave here?
Yeah.
Same thing with a coffee shop. So now I've traveled and visited a lot of the top coffee shops all over. And I like some places I just really enjoy sitting down and drinking the cup and getting another cup. Some of them like, great coffee, but I want to leave.
Yeah.
Like some of the best ones are the most sort of noisy and not so, there's no atmosphere. And the other ones are just like, I want to stay here all day.
Yeah.
Like the examples are like Batch Baby in London. Super cozy.
Yeah, no. And amazing coffee.
Coffee. Suited, New York. Also totally different. Like more like business. But it's got a design. It's got a feel.
Yeah.
I'm not going to out anyone who didn't have a nice atmosphere, but there were some like serving really nice coffee. Like, do you see people paying attention to that more? Like
yes and no. We see newly opened shop that like when you see them just online, you're like, amazing menu, but is it maybe a little bit sterile or like
Stora Bageriet that you sell to? Like amazing to sit there.
Yeah, and it also it's hard to say what comes with what, because at places, high volume places, you can have like a really minimalistic and clean environment, but there's so much amazing people in the venue, so it's like you have the ambience and vibe, and like the baristas is brewing fresh coffee.
Yeah,
but when those places get like empty, especially in the beginning of coffee bar journeys, it could be like, okay, a little bit too sterile maybe. But I think
decoration is people.
I think people are forgetting. Some people just forget about that, and also I think it's a money issue. Like they only afford like an amazing espresso machine and amazing grinders, and the rest is just like a white room kind of, because they don't.
It's a lot to ask for a person who opens up a coffee shop to have all aspects in check.
Of course.
It's like get partners.
Yes.
If you don't own it, don't do it.
No.
I know where I come short. If I would open a restaurant again, I know exactly who I would look for as a personality to partner with.
But I think people just forget it also. They're like, this is my business. I know how to do this perfectly. And they just forget to ask, like, but do you really enjoy being here?
Yeah.
And they're like, I enjoy meeting you, but the rest is kind of forgotten. So
it's always back to target group.
Yeah.
It's like I've worked with marketing now for 6-7+ years, and target group. Know your customer.
Yeah. And I think 90% who open a cafe are just opening a cafe based on their like dreams and visions.
And hopefully
it works.
Hopefully you have some like couple of thousand doppelgangers out in society that are in your vicinity that also likes what you like.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard ask.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't like sell out. That's also obvious when you get like super cozy. I want to sit there all day, and like and the menu and the coffee is just like
yeah. So I'll call you when it's time to open. You can do your So as said, we will sit down for 15 minutes. Now it's 1 hour.
Really?
Yes. That's
That
cool.
is the fastest hour.
Yeah. And we had not a single pause of like, I don't really know what to talk about.
I have so many more questions. I should do a podcast with you.
Yeah. That would be cool. Maybe, but I think we should wrap this up. And then we switch places for next one.
Yeah.
And you can be the host. So, Maximilian, you are today, your day-to-day business is at Bluewater.
Yeah.
We will link to them.
Yeah.
You also mentioned your book. I didn't know that. It would be cool if you can just write your own description of this episode.
Books.
You have 5 books, okay. Because I think a lot of people are interested in these kind of issues, like the facts that we are talking about. So everything will be found, and on YouTube you find us.
Can I do a plug? We're launching the Café Station like end of this month.
Cool.
In here in Sweden and UK.
Yeah.
and it's going to be available in the US soon as well, and in the Middle East as well. So if you have ambition to really dial in your water and having that variable taken out, the Café Station does it all.
That's the point. Have that variable, just check the box of water.
98%.
Super cool. Contact you guys, contact us. We have it installed here. It's amazing. And you will be the host next time.